1 Kings chapter 1. Now King David was old, advanced in age, and they covered him with clothes, but he could not keep warm. So his servant said to him, "Let them seek a young virgin for my lord the king, and let her stand before the king and become his nurse. And let her lie in your bosom, that my lord the king may keep warm." So they sought for a beautiful young woman throughout all the territory of Israel, and found Abishag the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. Now the young woman was very beautiful, and she became the king's nurse and attended him, but the king did not know her. Now Adonijah the son of Haggith exalted himself, saying, "I will be king." So he prepared for himself a chariot and horsemen and 50 men as runners before him. But his father had never grieved him at any time by asking, "Why have you done so?" And he was also a very handsome man in form, and he was born after Absalom. And he had conferred with Joab the son of Zeruiah and with Abiathar the priest, and following Adonijah they helped him. But Zadok the priest, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, Nathan the prophet, Shimei, Ray, and the mighty men who belonged to David were not with Adonijah. And Adonijah sacrificed sheep and oxen and fatlings by the stone of Zoheleth, which is beside En-Rogel. And he invited all his brothers, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. But he did not invite Nathan the prophet, Benaiah, the mighty men, and Solomon his brother. Then Nathan spoke to Bathsheba the mother of Solomon, saying, "Have you not heard that Adonijah the son of Haggith has become king, and David our Lord does not know it? So now come, please let me give you counsel and provide escape for your life and the life of your son Solomon. Go at once to King David and say to him, 'Have you not, my lord, O king, sworn to your maidservant, saying, Surely Solomon your son shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne. Why then has Adonijah become king? Behold, while you are still there speaking with the king, I will come in after you and fully confirm your words.' So Bathsheba went into the king in the bedroom. Now the king was very old, and Abishag the Shunammite was ministering to the king. Then Bathsheba bowed and prostrated herself before the king. And the king said, 'What do you wish?' And she said to him, 'My lord, you swore to your maidservant by Yahweh your God, saying, Surely your son Solomon shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne. But now, behold, Adonijah is king. And now, my lord the king, you do not know it. And he has sacrificed oxen and fatlings and sheep in abundance, and has invited all the sons of the king, and Abiathar the priest, and Joab the commander of the army. But he has not invited Solomon your servant. As for you now, my lord the king, the eyes of all Israel are on you, to tell them who shall sit on the throne of my lord the king after him. Otherwise it will be, as soon as my lord the king sleeps with his fathers, that I and my son Solomon will be considered offenders.' Behold, while she was still speaking with the king, Nathan the prophet came in. Then they told the king, saying, 'Here is Nathan the prophet.' And then he came in before the king and prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground. Then Nathan said, 'My lord the king, have you said, Adonijah shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne? For he has gone down today and has sacrificed oxen and fatlings and sheep in abundance, and has invited all the king's sons and the commanders of the army and Abiathar the priest. And behold, they are eating and drinking before him. And they say, Long live King Adonijah. But me, even me your servant, and Zadok the priest and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada and your servant Solomon, he has not invited. Has this thing happened by my lord the king? And you have not made known to your servants, who should sit on the throne of my lord the king after him.' Then King David answered and said, 'Call Bathsheba to me.' And she came into the king's presence and stood before the king. And the king swore and said, 'As Yahweh lives, who has redeemed my life from all distress, surely as I swore to you by Yahweh, the God of Israel, saying, Surely your son Solomon shall be king after me, and he shall sit on my throne in my place. I will surely do so this day.' Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the ground, and prostrated herself before the king and said, 'May my lord King David live forever.' Then King David said, 'Call to me Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada.' And they came into the king's presence. And the king said to them, 'Take with you the servants of your lord, and have my son Solomon ride on my own mule, and bring him down to Gihon. And Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet shall anoint him there as king over Israel, and blow the trumpet and say, Long live King Solomon. Then you shall come up after him, and he shall come and sit on my throne, and he shall be king in my place, for I have commanded him to be ruler over Israel and Judah.' Then Benaiah the son of Jehoiada answered the king and said, Amen. Thus may Yahweh, the God of my lord the king, say, As Yahweh has been with my lord the king, so may he be with Solomon, and make his throne greater than the throne of my lord King David. So Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, the Cherethites and the Pelethites went down and had Solomon ride on King David's mule and brought him to Gihon. Zadok the priest then took the horn of oil from the tent and anointed Solomon. Then they blew the trumpet, and all the people said, Long live King Solomon. And all the people went up after him, and the people were playing on flutes and were glad with great gladness, so that the earth shook at their sound. And Adonijah and all the guests who were with him heard it as they finished eating. Then Joab heard the sound of the trumpet and said, Why is the sound of the city such an uproar? While he was still speaking, behold, Jonathan the son of Abiathar the priest came. Then Adonijah said, Come in, for you are a valiant man, and bring good news. But Jonathan answered and said to Adonijah, No, our lord King David has made Solomon king. The king has also sent with him Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and they have made him ride on the king's mule. And Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet have anointed him king in Gihon, and they have come up from there with gladness, so that the city is in an uproar. This is the sound which you have heard. And also Solomon has even taken his seat on the throne of the kingdom. And also the king's servants came to bless our lord King David, saying, May your God make the name of Solomon better than your name, and his throne greater than your throne. And the king bowed himself on the bed. And also the king said thus, Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel, who has granted one to sit on my throne today while my own eyes see it. Then all the guests of Adonijah trembled, and they arose and each went on his way. And Adonijah was afraid of Solomon, and he arose, went, and took hold of the horns of the altar. Then it was told to Solomon, saying, Behold, Adonijah is afraid of King Solomon, and behold, he has taken hold of the horns of the altar, saying, Let King Solomon swear to me today that he will not put his servant to death with the sword. And Solomon said, If he is a worthy man, not one of his hairs will fall to the ground. But if evil is found in him, he will die. So King Solomon sent, and they brought him down from the altar. And he came and prostrated himself before King Solomon, and Solomon said to him, Go to your house. 1 Kings chapter 2. Then David's time to die drew near, so he commanded Solomon his son, saying, I am going the way of all the earth, so you shall be strong and be a man. And you shall keep the responsibility given by Yahweh your God to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, and his testimonies, according to what is written in the law of Moses, that you may be prosperous in all that you do and wherever you turn, so that Yahweh may establish his promise which he spoke concerning me, saying, If your sons keep their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart, and with all their soul, he said, You shall not have a man cut off from the throne of Israel. Now you also know what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, what he did to the two commanders of the armies of Israel, to Abner the son of Ner, and to Amasa the son of Jether, whom he killed. He also shed the blood of war in peace. And he put the blood of war on his belt about his waist, and on his sandals on his feet. So act according to your wisdom, and do not let his gray hair go down to Sheol in peace. But show loving kindness to the sons of Barzillai the Gileadite, and let them be among those who eat at your table. For they assisted me when I fled from Absalom your brother. Behold, there is with you Shimei the son of Gera the Benjamite, of Bath-urim. Now it was he who cursed me with a violent curse on the day I went to Mahanaim. But when he came down to me at the Jordan, I swore to him by Yahweh, saying, I will not put you to death with the sword. So now do not let him go unpunished. For you are a wise man, and you will know what you ought to do to him, and you will bring his gray hair down to Sheol with blood. Then David slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David. And the time which David reigned over Israel was 40 years. In Hebron he reigned 7 years, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And Solomon sat on the throne of David his father, and his kingdom was firmly established. Then Adonijah the son of Haggith came to Bathsheba the mother of Solomon, and she said, Do you come peacefully? And he said, Peacefully. Then he said, I have something to say to you. And she said, Speak. So he said, You know that the kingdom was mine, and that all Israel expected me to be king. However, the kingdom has turned about and become my brother's, for it was his from Yahweh. So now I am making one request of you. Do not turn me away." And she said to him, "Speak." Then he said, "Please speak to Solomon the king, for he will not turn you away, that he may give me Abishag the Shunammite as a wife." And Bathsheba said, "Very well, I will speak to the king for you." So Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah. And the king arose to meet her, bowed before her, and sat on his throne. Then he had a throne set for the king's mother, and she sat on his right. Then she said, "I am making one small request of you. Do not turn me away." And the king said to her, "Ask, my mother, for I will not turn you away." So she said, "Let Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah your brother as a wife." Then King Solomon answered and said to his mother, "And why are you asking Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? Ask for him also the kingdom, for he is my older brother, even for him, for Abiathar the priest, and for Joab the son of Zeruiah." Then King Solomon swore by Yahweh, saying, "May God do so to me and more also, if Adonijah has not spoken this word against his own life. So now, as Yahweh lives, who has established me and set me on the throne of David my father, and who has made me a house as he promised, surely Adonijah shall be put to death today." So King Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him so that he died. Then to Abiathar the priest the king said, "Go to Anathoth to your own field, for you deserve to die. But I will not put you to death at this time, because you carried the ark of Lord Yahweh before my father David, and because you were afflicted in everything with which my father was afflicted." So Solomon drove Abiathar away from being priest to Yahweh, in order to fulfill the word of Yahweh, which he had spoken concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh. Now the news came to Joab, for Joab had followed Adonijah, although he had not followed Absalom. And Joab fled to the tent of Yahweh and took hold of the horns of the altar. And it was told to King Solomon that Joab had fled to the tent of Yahweh, and behold, he is beside the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, "Go, fall upon him." So Benaiah came to the tent of Yahweh and said to him, "Thus the king has said, 'Come out.' But he said, 'No, for I will die here.' And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, 'Thus spoke Joab, and thus he answered me.' And the king said to him, 'Do as he has spoken and fall upon him and bury him, that you may remove from me, and from my father's house the blood which Joab shed without cause. And Yahweh will return his blood on his own head, because he fell upon two men more righteous and better than he, and killed them with the sword. But my father David did not know it. Abner the son of Ner, commander of the army of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, commander of the army of Judah. So shall their blood return on the head of Joab and on the head of his seed forever. But to David and his seed and his house and his throne, may there be peace from Yahweh forever." Then Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up and fell upon him and put him to death, and he was buried at his own house in the wilderness. And the king appointed Benaiah the son of Jehoiada over the army in his place, and the king appointed Zadok the priest in the place of Abiathar. Then the king sent and called for Shimei and said to him, "Build for yourself a house in Jerusalem and live there, and do not go out from there to any place. Now it will be on the day you go out and cross over the brook Kidron, that you will know for certain that you shall surely die. Your blood shall be on your own head." Shimei then said to the king, "The word is good. As my lord the king has said, so your servant will do." So Shimei lived in Jerusalem many days. But it happened at the end of 3 years that two of the slaves of Shimei ran away to Achish son of Maacah, king of Gath. And they told Shimei, saying, "Behold, your slaves are in Gath." Then Shimei arose and saddled his donkey, and went to Gath to Achish to search for his slaves. And Shimei went and brought his slaves from Gath. And it was told to Solomon that Shimei had gone from Jerusalem to Gath, and had returned. So the king sent and called for Shimei and said to him, "Did I not make you swear by Yahweh and solemnly warn you, saying, 'You will know for certain that on the day you go out and go anywhere, you shall surely die'? And you said to me, 'The word which I have heard is good.' Why then have you not kept the oath of Yahweh, and the command which I have commanded you?" The king also said to Shimei, "You know all the evil which you acknowledge in your heart, which you did to my father David. Therefore Yahweh shall return your evil on your own head. But King Solomon shall be blessed, and the throne of David shall be established before Yahweh forever." So the king commanded Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and he went out and fell upon him so that he died. Thus the kingdom was established in the hands of Solomon. 1 Kings chapter 3. Then Solomon formed a marriage alliance with Pharaoh king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her to the city of David until he had completed building his own house and the house of Yahweh and the wall around Jerusalem. The people were still sacrificing on the high places because there was no house built for the name of Yahweh until those days. And Solomon loved Yahweh, walking in the statutes of his father David, except he sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. In Gibeon, Yahweh appeared to Solomon in a dream at night. And God said, "Ask what I should give to you." Then Solomon said, "You have shown great loving kindness to your slave David my father, according to how he walked before you in truth and righteousness and uprightness of heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great loving kindness, that you have given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. So now, O Yahweh my God, you have made your slave king in place of my father David, yet I am but a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in. And your slave is in the midst of your people which you have chosen, a numerous people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give your slave a listening heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this glorious people of yours?" And it was pleasing. 1 Kings chapter 4. So King Solomon was king over all Israel. These were his officials. Azariah the son of Zadok was the priest. Elihorph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha, were scribes. Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was the recorder. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over the army. And Zadok and Abiathar were priests. And Azariah the son of Nathan was over the deputies. And Zabad the son of Nathan, a priest, was the king's friend. And Ahishar was over the household. And Adoniram the son of Abda was over the men subject to forced labor. Now Solomon had 12 deputies over all Israel, who sustained the king and his household. Each man had to sustain them for a month in the year. These are their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker in Makkaz and Shalbim and Beth-Shemesh and Elon Beth-Hanan, Ben-Hezd in Araboth. Sako was his and all the land of Hepher. Ben-Abinadab in all the height of Dor. Tapheth the daughter of Solomon was his wife. Bana the son of Ahilud in Taanach and Megiddo, and all Bethshean which is beside Zarethan below Jezreel, from Bethshean to Abel-Mahala as far as the other side of Jokmeam. Ben-Jebber in Ramoth-Gilead, now Havoth-Jair, being the son of Manasseh, which is in Gilead, was his. The region of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities with walls and bronze bars were his. Ahinadab the son of Iddo in Mahanaim. Ahimaaz in Naphtali, he also married Basemath the daughter of Solomon. Bana the son of Hushai in Asher and Beloth. Jehoshaphat the son of Paruah in Issachar. Shimei the son of Elah in Benjamin. Jeber the son of Uri in the land of Gilead, the country of Sihon king of the Amorites and of Og king of Bashan. And he was the only deputy who was in the land. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. They were eating and drinking and being glad. Now Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the river to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. And Solomon's provision for one day was 30 cores of fine flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 fat oxen, 20 pasture-fed oxen, 100 sheep besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fattened fowl. For he had dominion over everything west of the river, from Tifsa even to Gaza, over all the kings west of the river. And he had peace on all sides around about him. So Judah and Israel lived in security, every man under his vine and his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. And these deputies sustained King Solomon and all who came to King Solomon's table, each in his month. They left nothing lacking. They also brought barley and straw for the horses and swift steeds to the place where it should be, each according to the legal judgment for him. And God gave Solomon wisdom and very great discernment and breadth of understanding in his heart, like the sand that is on the seashore. And Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the sons of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt. And he was wiser than all men, than Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahal, and the renown of his name was in all the surrounding nations. He also spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And he spoke of trees, from the cedar that is in Lebanon, even to the hyssop that grows on the wall. He spoke also of animals and birds and creeping things and fish. And men came from all peoples to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. 1 Kings chapter 5. Then Hiram king of Tyre sent his servants to Solomon, when he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father. For Hiram had always been one who loved David. And Solomon sent word to Hiram, saying, You know that David my father was unable to build a house for the name of Yahweh his God because of the wars which surrounded him, until Yahweh put them under the soles of his feet. But now Yahweh my God has given me rest on every side. There is neither adversary nor calamity. So behold, I intend to build a house for the name of Yahweh my God, as Yahweh spoke to David my father, saying, Your son, whom I will set on your throne in your place, he will build the house for my name. So now command that they cut for me cedars from Lebanon, and my servants will be with your servants. And I will give you wages for your servants according to all that you say. For you know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians. Now it happened, when Hiram heard the words of Solomon, he was very glad and said, Blessed be Yahweh today, who has given to David a wise son over this great people. So Hiram sent word to Solomon, saying, I have heard the message which you have sent me. I will do what you desire concerning the cedar and cypress timber. My servants will bring them down from Lebanon to the sea, and I will make them into rafts to go by sea to the place where you direct me, and I will have them broken up there, and you shall carry them away. Then you shall accomplish my desire by giving food to my household. So Hiram gave Solomon as much as he desired of the cedar and cypress timber. Solomon then gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat as food for his household, and 20 cores of beaten oil. Thus Solomon would give Hiram year by year. Now Yahweh gave wisdom to Solomon, just as he promised him, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them cut a covenant. And King Solomon raised up forced laborers from all Israel, and the forced laborers numbered 30,000 men. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts. They were in Lebanon a month and 2 months at home. And Adoniram was over the forced laborers. And Solomon had 70,000 who carried loads, and 80,000 hewers of stone in the mountains, besides Solomon's 3,300 chief deputies who were over the project, and who ruled over the people who were doing the work. Then the king commanded, and they quarried great stones, precious stones, to lay the foundation of the house with cut stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the Jebuelites carved them out, and prepared the timbers and the stones to build the house. 1 Kings chapter 6. Now it happened in the 480th year after the sons of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of Yahweh. As for the house which King Solomon built for Yahweh, its length was 60 cubits, and its width 20 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. And the porch in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits in length, corresponding to the width of the house, and its depth along the front of the house was 10 cubits. Also for the house he made windows with artistic frames. And he built, against the wall of the house, stories encompassing the walls of the house around both the nave and the inner sanctuary. Thus he made side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, and the middle was 6 cubits wide, and the third was 7 cubits wide. For on the outside, he made offsets in the wall of the house all around in order that the beams would not be inserted in the walls of the house. The house, while it was being built, was built of stone prepared at the quarry. And there was neither hammer, nor axe, nor any iron tool heard in the house while it was being built. The doorway for the lowest side chamber was on the right side of the house, and they would go up by winding stairs to the middle story, and from the middle to the third. So he built the house and completed it. And he paneled the house with beams and planks of cedar. He also built the stories against the whole house, each 5 cubits high, and they were fastened to the house with timbers of cedar. And the word of Yahweh came to Solomon, saying, Concerning this house which you are building, if you will walk in my statutes and do my judgments and keep all my commandments by walking in them, then I will establish my word with you which I spoke to David your father, and I will dwell among the sons of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and completed it. Then he built the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the ceiling, he overlaid the walls on the inside with wood, and he overlaid the floor of the house with boards of cypress. And he built 20 cubits on the rear part of the house, with boards of cedar from the floor to the ceiling. He built them for it on the inside as an inner sanctuary, as the Holy of Holies. And the house, that is, the nave in front of the inner sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. And there was cedar on the house within, carved in the shape of gourds and open flowers. All was cedar, there was no stone seen. Then he prepared an inner sanctuary within the house in order to place there the ark of the covenant of Yahweh. Now the inner sanctuary was 20 cubits in length, 20 cubits in width, and 20 cubits in height, and he overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid the altar with cedar. So Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he drew chains of gold across the front of the inner sanctuary, and he overlaid it with gold. So he overlaid the whole house with gold, until all the house was finished. Also the whole altar which was by the inner sanctuary he overlaid with gold. Also in the inner sanctuary he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. And 5 cubits was the one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other wing of the cherub. From the end of one wing to the end of the other wing were 10 cubits. The other cherub was also 10 cubits. Both the cherubim were of the same measure and the same form. The height of the one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was the other cherub. And he put the cherubim in the midst of the inner house, and the wings of the cherubim were spread out, so that the wing of the one was touching the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub was touching the other wall. And their wings were touching each other in the center of the house. He also overlaid the cherubim with gold. Then he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved engravings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, from within the inner and outer sanctuaries. And he overlaid the floor of the house with gold, in the inner and outer sanctuaries. For the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood, the lintel and 5-sided doorposts. So he made 2 doors of olive wood, and he carved on them carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. And he spread the gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. So also he made for the entrance of the nave 4-sided doorposts of olive wood, and 2 doors of cypress wood. The 2 leaves of the one door turned on pivots, and the 2 leaves of the other door turned on pivots. And he carved on it cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold evenly applied on the engraved work. And he built the inner court with 3 rows of cut stone and a row of cedar beams. In the 4th year the foundation of the house of Yahweh was laid, in the month of Ziv. Now in the 11th year, in the month of Baal, which is the 8th month, the house was completed throughout all its parts and according to all its plans. So he built it in 7 years. 1 Kings chapter 7. Now Solomon built his own house 13 years, and he completed all his house. And he built the house of the forest of Lebanon. Its length was 100 cubits, and its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits, on 4 rows of cedar pillars with cedar beams on the pillars. And it was paneled with cedar above the side chambers, which were on the 45 pillars, 15 in each row. Now there were artistic window frames in 3 rows, and window was opposite window in 3 ranks. And all the doorways and doorposts had squared artistic frames, and window was opposite window in 3 ranks. Then he made the hall of pillars. Its length was 50 cubits, and its width 30 cubits, and a porch was in front of them, and pillars and a threshold in front of them. And he made the hall of the throne where he was to judge, the hall of judgment, and it was paneled with cedar from floor to floor. Now his house where he was to live, the other court inward from the hall, was of the same workmanship. He also made a house like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom Solomon had married. All these were of precious stones, of stone cut according to measure, sawed with saws inside and outside, even from the foundation to the coping, and so on the outside to the great court. And the foundation was of precious stones, even large stones, stones of 10 cubits and stones of 8 cubits. And above were precious stones, stone cut according to measure, and cedar. So the great court all around had 3 rows of cut stone, and a row of cedar beams, even as the inner court of the house of Yahweh, and the porch of the house. Then King Solomon sent and brought Hiram from Tyre. He was a widow's son from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in bronze, and he was filled with wisdom and discernment and knowledge to do any work in bronze. So he came to King Solomon and did all his work. And he fashioned the 2 pillars of bronze. 18 cubits was the height of one pillar, and a line of 12 cubits measured the circumference of both. He also made 2 capitals of molten bronze to set on the tops of the pillars. The height of the one capital was 5 cubits, and the height of the other capital was 5 cubits. There were nets of network and twisted threads of chainwork for the capitals which were on the top of the pillars, 7 for the one capital and 7 for the other capital. So he made the pillars and 2 rows around on the one network to cover the capitals which were on the top of the pomegranates. And so he did for the other capital. Now the capitals which were on the top of the pillars in the porch were of lily design, 4 cubits. And there were capitals on the 2 pillars, even right above the rounded projection, which was on the one side of the network. And the pomegranates numbered 200 in rows around both capitals. Thus he set up the pillars at the porch of the nave, and he set up the right pillar and named it Jaction, and he set up the left pillar and named it Boaz. And on the top of the pillars was lily design. So the work of the pillars was finished. And he made the sea of cast metal 10 cubits from brim to brim, circular in form, and its height was 5 cubits, and 30 cubits in its circumference. Now under its brim gourds went around encircling it 10 to a cubit, entirely encircling the sea. The gourds were in 2 rows, cast with the sea when it was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east. And the sea was set on top of them, and all their rear parts turned inward. And it was a handbreadth thick, and its brim was made like the brim of a cup, as a lily blossom. It could hold 2,000 baths. Then he made the 10 stands of bronze. The length of each stand was 4 cubits, and its width 4 cubits, and its height 3 cubits. Now this was the workmanship of the stands. They had borders, even borders between the frames. And on the borders which were between the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim. And on the frames there was a pedestal above, and beneath the lions and oxen were reeds of hanging work. Now each stand had 4 bronze wheels with bronze axles, and its 4 feet had supports. Beneath the laver were cast supports with wreaths at each side. And its opening inside the capital at the top was a cubit, and its opening was round like the workmanship of a pedestal, 1.5 cubits. And also on its opening there were engravings, and their borders were square, not round. And the 4 wheels were underneath the borders, and the axles of the wheels were on the stand. And the height of a wheel was 1.5 cubits. Now the workmanship of the wheels was like the workmanship of a chariot wheel. Their axles, their rims, their spokes, and their hubs were all cast. Now there were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. Its supports were part of the stand itself. And on the top of the stand there was a circular form 0.5 cubit high, and on the top of the stand its stays and its borders were part of it. And he engraved on the plates of its stays and on its borders cherubim, lions, and palm trees, according to the clear space on each, with wreaths all around. He made the 10 stands like this. All of them had 1 casting, 1 measure, and 1 form. He also made 10 lavers of bronze. 1 laver held 40 baths. Each laver was 4 cubits, and on each of the 10 stands was 1 laver. Then he set the stands, 5 on the right side of the house, and 5 on the left side of the house. And he set the sea of cast metal on the right side of the house eastward toward the south. And Hiram made the lavers and the shovels and the bowls. So Hiram completed doing all the work that he did for King Solomon in the house of Yahweh, the 2 pillars and the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on the top of the 2 pillars, and the 2 networks to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on the top of the pillars, and the 400 pomegranates for the 2 networks, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on the tops of the pillars, and the 10 stands with the 10 lavers on the stands, and the 1 sea and the 12 oxen under the sea, and the pots and the shovels and the bowls. And all these utensils which Hiram made for King Solomon in the house of Yahweh were of polished bronze. On the plain of the Jordan the king cast them, in the clay ground between Sukkot and Zarephan. And Solomon left all the utensils unweighed, because they were too many. The weight of the bronze could not be found out. Solomon also made all the furniture which was in the house of Yahweh, the golden altar and the golden table on which was the bread of the presence, and the lampstands, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left, in front of the inner sanctuary of pure gold, and the flowers and the lamps and the tongs of gold, and the cups and the snuffers and the bowls and the spoons and the fire pans of pure gold, and the hinges both for the doors of the inner house, the Holy of Holies, and for the doors of the house, that is, of the nave of gold. Thus all the work that King Solomon did in the house of Yahweh was finished. And Solomon brought in the things set apart as holy by his father David, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of Yahweh. 1 Kings chapter 8. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the fathers' households of the sons of Israel, to King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahweh from the city of David, which is Zion. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves to King Solomon at the feast, in the month Ethanim, which is the 7th month. Then all the elders of Israel came, and the priests carried the ark. And they brought up the ark of Yahweh, and the tent of meeting, and all the holy utensils, which were in the tent. And the priests and the Levites brought them up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel, who congregated to him being with him before the ark, were sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered. Then the priests brought the ark of the covenant of Yahweh to its place, into the inner sanctuary of the house, to the Holy of Holies, under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim made a covering over the ark and its poles from above. But the poles were so long that the ends of the poles could be seen from the holy place before the inner sanctuary, but they could not be seen outside, and they are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone which Moses laid there at Horeb, where Yahweh cut a covenant with the sons of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. Now it happened that when the priests came out of the holy place, the cloud filled the house of Yahweh, so that the priests could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of Yahweh filled the house of Yahweh. Then Solomon said, Yahweh has said that he would dwell in the cloud of dense gloom. I have surely built you a lofty house, a place for your dwelling forever. Then the king turned his face around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel was standing. And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David, and has fulfilled it by his hand, saying, Since the day that I brought my people Israel from Egypt, I did not choose a city out of all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house that my name might be there. But I have chosen David to be over my people Israel. And it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. But Yahweh said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son who will come forth from your loins, he shall build the house for my name. And Yahweh has established his word which he spoke. And I have been established in place of my father David, and sit on the throne of Israel, as Yahweh promised, and have built the house for the name of Yahweh, the God of Israel. And there I have set a place for the ark, in which is the covenant of Yahweh, which he cut with our fathers when he brought them from the land of Egypt. Then Solomon stood before the altar of Yahweh before all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands toward heaven. And he said, O Yahweh, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or upon earth beneath, keeping covenant and loving kindness to your slaves who walk before you with all their heart, who have kept with your servant, my father David, that which you have promised him. Indeed, you have promised with your mouth, and have fulfilled it by your hand as it is this day. So now, O Yahweh, the God of Israel, keep with your servant David my father that which you have promised him, saying, You shall not have a man cut off from before me who is to sit on the throne of Israel, if only your sons keep their way to walk as you have walked before me. So now, O God of Israel, let your word truly endure which you have spoken to your servant, my father David. But will God truly dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Yet have regard to the prayer of your slave and to his supplication, O Yahweh my God, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your slave prays before you today, that your eyes may be open toward this house night and day, toward the place of which you have said, My name shall be there, to listen to the prayer which your slave shall pray toward this place. And listen to the supplication of your slave and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place. Listen in heaven your dwelling place, listen and forgive. If a man sins against his neighbor and is made to take an oath, and he comes and takes an oath before your altar in this house, then listen in heaven and act and judge your slaves, condemning the wicked by bringing his way on his own head, and justifying the righteous by bringing him reward according to his righteousness. When your people Israel are defeated before an enemy, because they have sinned against you, If they turn to you again and confess your name and pray and make supplication to you in this house, then listen in heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land which you gave to their fathers. When the heavens are shut up and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, and they pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin when you afflict them, then listen in heaven and forgive the sin of your slaves and of your people Israel. Indeed, teach them the good way in which they should walk, and give rain on your land, which you have given to your people for an inheritance. If there is famine in the land, if there is pestilence, if there is scorching wind or mildew, locust or grasshopper, if their enemy besieges them in the land of their cities, whatever plague, whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer or supplication is made by any man or by all your people Israel, each of whom knows the affliction of his own heart, and spreads his hands toward this house, then listen in heaven your dwelling place, and forgive and act and give to each according to all his ways, whose heart you know, for you alone know the hearts of all the sons of men, that they may fear you all the days that they live upon the face of the land, which you have given to our fathers. Also concerning the foreigner who is not of your people Israel, if he comes from a far country for your name's sake. For they will hear of your great name and your strong hand, and of your outstretched arm. So if he comes and prays toward this house, listen in heaven your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls to you, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know your name to fear you, as do your people Israel, and to know that your name is called upon this house which I have built. When your people go out to battle against their enemy, by whatever way you shall send them, and they pray to Yahweh toward the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then listen in heaven to their prayer and their supplication, and do justice, when they sin against you, for there is no man who does not sin, and you are angry with them and give them over to an enemy, so that they take them away captive to the land of the enemy, far off or near. And if they cause these things to return to their heart in the land where they have been taken captive, and return and make supplication to you in the land of those who have taken them captive, saying, we have sinned and have committed iniquity, we have acted wickedly. And if they return to you with all their heart, and with all their soul in the land of their enemies who have taken them captive, and pray to you toward their land which you have given to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name, then listen in heaven your dwelling place to their prayer and their supplication, and do justice for them, and forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their transgressions which they have transgressed against you, and give them over as objects of compassion before those who have taken them captive, that they may have compassion on them. For they are your people, and your inheritance which you have brought forth from Egypt, from the midst of the iron furnace, that your eyes may be open to the supplication of your slave, and to the supplication of your people Israel, to listen to them whenever they call to you. For you have separated them from all the peoples of the earth as your inheritance, as you spoke by the hand of Moses your servant, when you brought our fathers forth from Egypt, O Lord Yahweh. Now it happened that, when Solomon had finished praying this entire prayer and supplication to Yahweh, he arose from before the altar of Yahweh, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread toward heaven. And he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be Yahweh, who has given rest to his people Israel, according to all that he promised. Not one promise has failed of all his good promises, which he promised by the hand of Moses his servant. May Yahweh our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. May he not forsake us or abandon us, that he may incline our hearts to himself, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, which he commanded our fathers. And may these words of mine, with which I have made supplication before Yahweh, be near to Yahweh our God day and night, that he may do justice for his slave and justice for his people Israel, as each day requires, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that Yahweh is God. There is no one else. Let your heart therefore be wholly devoted to Yahweh our God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments, as at this day. Now the king and all Israel with him were offering sacrifices before Yahweh. And Solomon offered for the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered to Yahweh, 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the sons of Israel dedicated the house of Yahweh. On the same day, the king set apart as holy the middle of the court that was before the house of Yahweh, because there He offered the burnt offering and the grain offering and the fat of the peace offerings. For the bronze altar that was before Yahweh was too small to hold the burnt offering and the grain offering and the fat of the peace offerings. So Solomon celebrated the feast at that time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly from Lebo-Hamath to the brook of Egypt, before Yahweh our God, for 7 days and 7 more days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king. Then they went to their tents with gladness and goodness of heart, because of all the goodness that Yahweh had shown to David his servant, and to Israel his people. 1 Kings chapter 9. Now it happened when Solomon had completed building the house of Yahweh, and the king's house, and all that Solomon desired to do, that Yahweh appeared to Solomon a second time, as he had appeared to him at Gibon. And Yahweh said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication, which you have made before me. I have set apart as holy this house which you have built by putting my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. As for you, if you will walk before me as your father David walked, in integrity of heart and uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, just as I promised to your father David, saying, You shall not have a man cut off from the throne of Israel. But if you or your sons indeed turn away from following me, and do not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have given before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and the house which I have set apart as holy for my name, I will cast out of my presence. So Israel will become a proverb and a byword among all peoples, and this house will become a heap of ruins. Everyone who passes by will feel desolate and hiss and say, Why has Yahweh done thus to this land and to this house? And they will say, Because they forsook Yahweh their God, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and took hold of other gods, and worshipped them and served them. Therefore Yahweh has brought all this calamity on them. Now it happened that at the end of 20 years, in which Solomon had built the 2 houses, the house of Yahweh and the king's house, Hiram king of Tyre had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress timber and gold according to all his desire. That King Solomon then gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. So Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they were not right in his eyes. And he said, What are these cities which you have given me, my brother? So they were called the land of Cabul to this day. And Hiram sent to the king 120 talents of gold. Now this is the account of the forced labor which King Solomon raised up to build the house of Yahweh, his own house, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Jezer. For Pharaoh king of Egypt had gone up and captured Jezer and burned it with fire, and killed the Canaanites who lived in the city, and had given it as a dowry to his daughter, Solomon's wife. So Solomon rebuilt Jezer and the lower Bethhoron, and Baalath and Tamar in the wilderness, in the land of Judah, and all the storage cities which Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and all that Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land under his rule. As for all the people who were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, who were not of the sons of Israel, namely, their sons who were left after them in the land, whom the sons of Israel were unable to devote to destruction. From them Solomon raised up forced laborers to this day. But Solomon did not make slaves of the sons of Israel, for they were men of war, his servants, his princes, his captains, his chariot commanders, and his horsemen. These were the chief deputies who were over Solomon's work, 550, who had dominion over the people doing the work. As soon as Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her, then he built the Millo. And 3 times in a year Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar which he built to Yahweh, burning incense with them on the altar which was before Yahweh. So he finished the house. King Solomon also made a fleet of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is near Elath on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent his servants with the fleet of ships, sailors who knew the sea, along with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir, and took from there 420 talents of gold, and brought it to King Solomon. 1 Kings chapter 10. Now the queen of Sheba heard the report about Solomon concerning the name of Yahweh. So she came to test him with riddles. She came to Jerusalem with a very glorious retinue, with camels carrying spices and very much gold and precious stones. And she came to Solomon and spoke to him about all that was in her heart. And Solomon declared to her the answer to all her matters. There was not a matter which was hidden from the king, which he did not declare to her. Then the queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his servants, the disposition of his attendants and their attire, his cupbearers, and his stairway by which he went up to the house of Yahweh, so that there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the king, "The word is true which I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom. Nevertheless, I did not believe those words until I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not declared to me. You exceed in wisdom and prosperity the report which I heard. How blessed are your men! How blessed are these your servants who stand before you continually and hear your wisdom. Blessed be Yahweh your God who delighted in you to set you on the throne of Israel. Because Yahweh loved Israel forever, therefore he made you king to do justice and righteousness." Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great amount of spices and precious stones. Never again did such abundance of spices come in as that which the queen of Sheba gave King Solomon. Also, the ships of Hiram, which carried gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir a very great number of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees supports for the house of Yahweh, and for the king's house, also lyres and harps for the singers. Such almug trees have not come in again, nor have they been seen to this day. Thus King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire which she asked, besides what he gave her according to his royal bounty. Then she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold which came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Besides that from the traders and the wares of the merchants, and all the kings of the Arabs and the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold, using 600 shekels of gold on each large shield. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold, using 3 minas of gold on each shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with refined gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, and a round top to the throne at its rear, and arms on each side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. 12 lions were also standing there on the 6 steps on the one side and on the other. Nothing like it was made for all the other kingdoms. Now all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None was of silver. It was not considered valuable in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea the ships of Tarshish with the ships of Hiram. Once every 3 years the ships of Tarshish came carrying gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon became greater than all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom. And all the earth was seeking the presence of Solomon, to hear his wisdom which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, articles of silver and gold, garments, weapons, spices, horses, and mules, a set amount year by year. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen. And he had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen, and stationed them in the chariot cities, and with the king in Jerusalem. The king also made silver as plentiful as stones in Jerusalem, and he made cedars as plentiful as sycamore trees that are in the Shephelah. Solomon's import of horses was from Egypt and Kue. The king's merchants procured them from Kue for a price. And a chariot was imported from Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and a horse for 150. And by the same means, they exported them to all the kings of the Hittites and to the kings of Aram. 1 Kings chapter 11. Now King Solomon loved many foreign women along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which Yahweh had said to the sons of Israel, "You shall not go along with them, nor shall they go along with you, for they will surely turn your heart away after their gods." Solomon clung to these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned his heart away. Now it happened at the time that Solomon was old, his wives turned his heart away after other gods, and his heart was not wholly devoted to Yahweh his God, as the heart of David his father had been. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the detestable idol of the Ammonites. And Solomon did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and did not follow Yahweh fully, as David his father had done. Then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the detestable idol of Moab, on the mountain which is east of Jerusalem, and for Melech, the detestable idol of the sons of Ammon. Thus also he did for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and sacrificed to their gods. Now Yahweh was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned away from Yahweh, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not walk after other gods. But he did not keep what Yahweh had commanded. So Yahweh said to Solomon, because this has happened with you, you have not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded you, so I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and will give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for the sake of your father David, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem which I have chosen. Then Yahweh raised up an adversary to Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was of the seed of the king in Edom. Now it happened that when David was in Edom, and Joab the commander of the army had gone up to bury the slain, and had struck down every male in Edom. For Joab and all Israel stayed there 6 months, until he had cut off every male in Edom. That Hadad fled to Egypt, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, while Hadad was a young boy. Then they arose from Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them from Paran and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh king of Egypt. And he gave him a house and assigned him food and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh. So he gave him as a wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Tapenes the queen. And the sister of Tapenes bore his son Genubath, and Tapenes weaned him in Pharaoh's house. And Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. But Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the commander of the army had died. So Hadad said to Pharaoh, send me away, that I may go to my own country. Then Pharaoh said to him, but what have you lacked with me, that, behold, you are seeking to go to your own country? And he answered, nothing. Nevertheless, you must surely let me go. And God raised up another adversary to him, Rezon the son of Eliada, who had fled from his lord Hadadezer king of Zobah. And he gathered men to himself, and became commander of a marauding band, after David killed some of them. And they went to Damascus, and stayed there, and reigned in Damascus. So he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, along with the evil that Hadad did. And he abhorred Israel and reigned over Aram. Now Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite of Zeradah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruah, a widow, also raised his hand against the king. Now this was the reason why he raised his hand against the king. Solomon built the Millo, and closed up the breach of the city of his father David. Now the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon saw that the young man was industrious, and appointed him over all the load bearers of the house of Joseph. Now it happened at that time that Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, and that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him on the road. Now he had covered himself with a new cloak, and both of them were alone in the field. Then Ahijah took hold of the new cloak which was on him, and tore it into 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, take for yourself 10 pieces. For thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, behold, I will tear the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and give you 10 tribes, but he will have 1 tribe, for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, because they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of Moab, and Milcom, the god of the sons of Ammon. And they have not walked in my ways to do what is right in my sight, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as his father David did. Nevertheless, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him ruler all the days of his life, for the sake of my servant David, whom I chose, who kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom from his son's hand, and give it to you, the 10 tribes. But to his son I will give 1 tribe, that my servant David may have a lamp always before me in Jerusalem, the city where I have chosen for myself to put my name. And I will take you, and you shall reign over whatever your soul desires, and you shall be king over Israel. Then it will be that if you listen to all that I command you and walk in my ways, and do what is right in my sight to keep my statutes and my commandments, as my servant David did, then I will be with you and build you an enduring house as I built for David, and I will give Israel to you. Thus I will afflict the seed of David for this, but not always. Solomon sought therefore to put Jeroboam to death. But Jeroboam arose and fled to Egypt to Shishak, king of Egypt, and he was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, and whatever he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? Thus the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of his father David. And his son Rehoboam became king in his place. 1 Kings chapter 12. Then Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. And it happened, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard of it, he was living in Egypt, for he was yet in Egypt, where he had fled from the presence of King Solomon. Then they sent and called for him. And Jeroboam and all the assembly of Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke harsh, but you now lighten the harsh service of your father and his heavy yoke which he put on us, and we will serve you. Then he said to them, Go for 3 days, then return to me. So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the elders who had stood before his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, How do you counsel me to respond to this people? And they spoke to him, saying, If you will be a servant to this people today, and will serve them and grant them their petition, and speak good words to them, then they will be your servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the elders which they had counseled him, and took counsel with the young men who grew up with him and stood before him. So he said to them, What counsel do you give that we may respond to this people who have spoken to me, saying, Lighten the yoke which your father put on us? Then the young men who grew up with him spoke to him, saying, Thus you shall say to this people who spoke to you, saying, Your father made our yoke heavy, now you make it lighter for us. Thus you shall speak to them, My little finger is thicker than my father's loins. So now my father loaded you with a heavy yoke, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, as the king had spoken, saying, Return to me on the 3rd day. And the king answered the people harshly, and he forsook the counsel of the elders which they had given him, and he spoke to them according to the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So the king did not listen to the people, for it was a turn of events from Yahweh, that he might establish his word, which Yahweh spoke through Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Then all Israel saw that the king did not listen to them. So the people responded to the king with this word, saying, What portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to your own house, David. So Israel went to their tents. But as for the sons of Israel who lived in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the forced labor, and all Israel stoned him, and he died. And King Rehoboam made haste to mount his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. Now it happened when all Israel heard that Jeroboam had returned, that they sent and called him to the congregation and made him king over all Israel. None but the tribe of Judah followed the house of David. Then Rehoboam came to Jerusalem and assembled all the house of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 chosen men who could wage war, to fight against the house of Israel, to return the kingdom to Rehoboam the son of Solomon. But the word of God came to Shemaiah the man of God, saying, Speak to Rehoboam the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all the house of Judah and Benjamin, and to the rest of the people, saying, Thus says Yahweh, You shall not go up and fight against your brothers, the sons of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. So they listened to the word of Yahweh, and returned to go their way according to the word of Yahweh. Then Jeroboam built Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and lived there. And he went out from there, and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, Now the kingdom will return to the house of David. If this people go up to offer sacrifices in the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, then the heart of this people will return to their Lord, even to Rehoboam king of Judah. And they will kill me, and return to Rehoboam king of Judah. So the king took counsel, and made 2 golden calves, and he said to them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold your gods, O Israel, that brought you up from the land of Egypt. And he set one in Bethel, and one he put in Dan. Now this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one as far as Dan. And he made houses on high places, and made priests from among all the people who were not of the sons of Levi. And Jeroboam made a feast in the 8th month on the 15th day of the month, like the feast which is in Judah, and he went up to the altar. Thus he did in Bethel, to sacrifice to the calves which he had made. And he had the priests of the high places which he had made stand in Bethel. Then he went up to the altar which he had made in Bethel on the 15th day in the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised in his own heart. And he made a feast for the sons of Israel, and went up to the altar to burn incense. 1 Kings chapter 13. Now behold, there came a man of God from Judah to Bethel by the word of Yahweh, while Jeroboam was standing by the altar to burn incense. And he cried against the altar by the word of Yahweh, and said, O altar, altar, thus says Yahweh, behold, a son shall be born to the house of David, Josiah is his name. And on you he shall sacrifice the priests of the high places who burn incense on you, and human bones shall be burned on you. Then he gave a miraculous sign the same day, saying, This is the miraculous sign which Yahweh has spoken. Behold, the altar shall be torn apart, and the ashes which are on it shall be poured out. Now it happened that, when the king heard the word of the man of God, which he cried against the altar in Bethel, Jeroboam stretched out his hand from the altar, saying, Seize him. But his hand which he stretched out against him dried up, so that he could not draw it back to himself. The altar also was torn apart, and the ashes were poured out from the altar, according to the miraculous sign which the man of God had given by the word of Yahweh. Then the king answered and said to the man of God, Please entreat Yahweh your God, and pray for me that my hand may be restored to me. So the man of God entreated Yahweh, and the king's hand was restored to him, and it became as it was before. Then the king said to the man of God, Come home with me and refresh yourself, and I will give you a gift. But the man of God said to the king, If you were to give me half your house, I would not go with you, nor would I eat bread or drink water in this place. For so it was commanded me by the word of Yahweh, saying, You shall eat no bread, nor drink water, nor return by the way which you came. So he went another way, and did not return by the way which he came to Bethel. Now an old prophet was living in Bethel, and his sons came and recounted to him all the work which the man of God had done that day in Bethel. The words which he had spoken to the king, these also they recounted to their father. And their father said to them, Which way did he go? And his sons had seen the way which the man of God who came from Judah had gone. Then he said to his sons, Saddle the donkey for me. So they saddled the donkey for him, and he rode away on it. So he went after the man of God and found him sitting under an oak. And he said to him, Are you the man of God who came from Judah? And he said, I am. Then he said to him, Come home with me and eat bread. And he said, I cannot return with you, nor go with you, nor will I eat bread or drink water with you in this place. For a word came to me by the word of Yahweh, You shall eat no bread, nor drink water there. Do not return by going the way which you came. And he said to him, I also am a prophet like you, and an angel spoke to me by the word of Yahweh, saying, Bring him back with you to your house, that he may eat bread and drink water. But he dealt falsely with him. So he went back with him, and ate bread in his house, and drank water. Now it happened, as they were sitting down at the table, that the word of Yahweh came to the prophet who had brought him back. And he called out to the man of God who came from Judah, saying, Thus says Yahweh, because you have rebelled against the word of Yahweh, and have not kept the commandment which Yahweh your God commanded you, but have returned and eaten bread and drunk water in the place of which he said to you, Eat no bread and drink no water. Your body shall not come to the grave of your fathers. Now it happened after he had eaten bread, and after he had drunk, that he saddled the donkey for him, for the prophet whom he had brought back. Then he went, and on the way a lion met him and put him to death, and his body was thrown on the road, with the donkey standing beside it. The lion also was standing beside the body. And behold, men passed by and saw the body thrown on the road, and the lion standing beside the body. So they came and spoke about it in the city where the old prophet lived. Then the prophet who brought him back from the way heard it and said, It is the man of God who rebelled against the command of Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh has given him to the lion, which has mauled him and put him to death, according to the word of Yahweh which he spoke to him. Then he spoke to his sons, saying, Saddle the donkey for me. And they saddled it. And he went and found his body thrown on the road with the donkey, and the lion standing beside the body. the lion had not eaten the body nor mauled the donkey. So the prophet took up the body of the man of God and laid it on the donkey and brought it back. And he came to the city of the old prophet to mourn and to bury him. He laid his body in his own grave, and they mourned over him, saying, "Alas, my brother." Now it happened after he had buried him, that he spoke to his sons, saying, "When I die, you shall bury me in the grave in which the man of God is buried. Lay my bones beside his bones. For the word shall surely happen which he cried by the word of Yahweh against the altar in Bethel, and against all the houses of the high places which are in the cities of Samaria." After this event, Jeroboam did not return from his evil way, but he returned and made priests of the high places from among all the people. Any who delighted to be so, he ordained. So they became priests of the high places. And this event became sin to the house of Jeroboam, even to blot it out and destroy it from off the face of the earth. 1 Kings chapter 14. At that time Abijah the son of Jeroboam became sick. And Jeroboam said to his wife, "Arise now, and disguise yourself so that they will not know that you are the wife of Jeroboam, and go to Shiloh. Behold, Ahijah the prophet is there, who spoke concerning me that I would be king over this people. And take 10 loaves with you, some cakes, and a jar of honey, and go to him. He will tell you what will happen to the boy." Then Jeroboam's wife did so, and arose and went to Shiloh, and came to the house of Ahijah. Now Ahijah could not see, for his eyes had set because of his old age. Now Yahweh had said to Ahijah, "Behold, the wife of Jeroboam is coming to inquire of you concerning her son, for he is sick. You shall say thus and thus to her, for it will be when she arrives that she will pretend to be another woman." Now it happened, as Ahijah heard the sound of her feet coming in the doorway, that he said, "Come in, wife of Jeroboam, why do you pretend to be another woman? For I am sent to you with a harsh message. Go, say to Jeroboam, thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, because I exalted you from among the people and made you ruler over my people Israel, and tore the kingdom away from the house of David and gave it to you. Yet you have not been like my servant David, who kept my commandments and who walked after me with all his heart, to do only that which was right in my sight. You also have done more evil than all who were before you, and have gone and made for yourself other gods and molten images to provoke me to anger, and have cast me behind your back. Therefore, behold, I am bringing evil on the house of Jeroboam. I will cut off from Jeroboam every male person, both bond and free in Israel, and I will make a clean sweep of the house of Jeroboam, as one sweeps away dung until it is all gone. Anyone belonging to Jeroboam who dies in the city the dogs will eat, and he who dies in the field the birds of the sky will eat, for Yahweh has spoken it. But you arise, go to your house. When your feet enter the city, the child will die. And all Israel shall mourn for him and bury him, for he alone of Jeroboam's family will come to the grave, because in him something good was found toward Yahweh, the God of Israel, in the house of Jeroboam. Moreover, Yahweh will raise up for himself a king over Israel, who will cut off the house of Jeroboam this day and from now on. So Yahweh will strike Israel, as a reed is shaken in the water, and he will uproot Israel from this good land which he gave to their fathers, and will scatter them beyond the river, because they have made their Asherim, provoking Yahweh to anger. And he will give Israel over on account of the sins of Jeroboam, which he sinned, and with which he made Israel to sin. Then Jeroboam's wife arose, and went away and came to Tirzah. As she was entering the threshold of the house, the child died. And all Israel buried him and mourned for him, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke through his servant Ahijah the prophet. Now the rest of the acts of Jeroboam, how he made war and how he reigned, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Now the time that Jeroboam reigned was 22 years, and he slept with his fathers, and Nadab his son became king in his place. Now Rehoboam the son of Solomon became king in Judah. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which Yahweh had chosen from all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess. And Judah did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and they provoked him to jealousy more than all that their fathers had done, with the sins which they sinned. They also built for themselves high places and sacred pillars, and Asherim on every high hill, and beneath every green tree. There were also male cult prostitutes in the land. They did according to all the abominations of the nations, which Yahweh dispossessed before the sons of Israel. Now it happened in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem. And he took the treasures of the house of Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house. And he took everything. He even took all the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Then King Rehoboam made shields of bronze in their place and committed them into the hand of the commanders of the guard who kept the door of the king's house. Now it happened as often as the king entered the house of Yahweh, that the guards would carry them and would bring them back into the guard's room. Now the rest of the acts of Rehoboam and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? Now there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days. And Rehoboam slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And his mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess. And Abijam, his son, became king in his place. 1 Kings chapter 15. Now in the 18th year of King Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, Abijam became king over Judah. He reigned 3 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maacah the daughter of Abishalom. And he walked in all the sins of his father, which he had committed before him. And his heart was not wholly devoted to Yahweh his God, like the heart of his father David. But for David's sake Yahweh his God gave him a lamp in Jerusalem, to raise up his son after him, and to establish Jerusalem. Because David did what was right in the sight of Yahweh, and had not turned aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. Now there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all the days of his life. Now the rest of the acts of Abijam and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And there was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. And Abijam slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Asa his son became king in his place. Now in the 20th year of Jeroboam the king of Israel, Asa began to reign as king of Judah. And he reigned 41 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maacah the daughter of Abishalom. And Asa did what was right in the sight of Yahweh, like David his father. He also put away the male cult prostitutes from the land, and removed all the idols which his fathers had made. He also removed Maacah his mother from being queen mother, because she had made a horrid image for Asherah. And Asa cut down her horrid image and burned it at the brook Kidron. But the high places were not removed. Nevertheless, the heart of Asa was wholly devoted to Yahweh all his days. And he brought into the house of Yahweh the holy things of his father and his own holy things, silver and gold and utensils. Now there was war between Asa and Baasha king of Israel all their days. And Baasha king of Israel went up against Judah and built up Ramah in order to prevent anyone from going out or coming into Asa king of Judah. Then Asa took all the silver and the gold which were left in the treasuries of the house of Yahweh and the treasuries of the king's house, and delivered them into the hand of his servants. And King Asa sent them to Ben-Hadad the son of Tabraman, the son of Hezion, king of Aram, who lived in Damascus, saying, Let there be a covenant between you and me, as between my father and your father. Behold, I have sent you a gift of silver and gold. Go, break your covenant with Baasha king of Israel, so that he will withdraw from me. So Ben-Hadad listened to King Asa, and sent the commanders of his military force against the cities of Israel, and struck down Ijon, Dan, Abel-Beth-Maacah, and all Chinneroth, besides all the land of Naphtali. Now it happened that when Baasha heard of it, he ceased building up Ramah and remained in Tirzah. Then King Asa caused an announcement to be heard throughout all Judah. None was exempt, and they carried away the stones of Ramah and its timber with which Baasha had been building. And King Asa built with them Geber of Benjamin and Mizpah. Now the rest of all the acts of Asa and all his might, and all that he did, and the cities which he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? But in the time of his old age, he was diseased in his feet. And Asa slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David his father. And Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his place. Now Nadab the son of Jeroboam became king over Israel in the 2nd year of Asa king of Judah, and he reigned over Israel 2 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and walked in the way of his father and in his sin, which he made Israel sin. Then Baasha the son of Ahijah of the house of Issachar conspired against him, and Baasha struck him down at Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines, while Nadab and all Israel were laying siege to Gibbethon. So Baasha put him to death in the 3rd year of Asa king of Judah, and became king in his place. Now it happened that as soon as he was king, he struck down all the household of Jeroboam. He did not leave to Jeroboam anyone who drew breath, until he had destroyed them, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke by the hand of his servant Ahijah the Shilonite. And because of the sins of Jeroboam which he sinned, and which he made Israel sin, because of his provocation with which he provoked Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger. Now the rest of the acts of Nadab, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Now there was war between Asa and Baasha, king of Israel, all their days. In the 3rd year of Asa, king of Judah, Baasha the son of Ahijah became king over all Israel at Tirzah, and reigned 24 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and walked in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sin, which he made Israel sin. 1 Kings chapter 16. Now the word of Yahweh came to Jehu the son of Hanani against Baasha, saying, Inasmuch as I exalted you from the dust, and made you ruler over my people Israel, and you have walked in the way of Jeroboam, and have made my people Israel sin, provoking me to anger with their sins, behold, I am going to sweep away Baasha and his house, and I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Any one of Baasha who dies in the city the dogs will eat, and any one of his who dies in the field the birds of the sky will eat. Now the rest of the acts of Baasha, and what he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Baasha slept with his fathers and was buried in Tirzah, and Elah his son became king in his place. Moreover, the word of Yahweh through the hand of the prophet Jehu the son of Hanani also came about against Baasha and his household, both because of all the evil which he did in the sight of Yahweh, provoking him to anger with the work of his hands, in being like the house of Jeroboam, and because he struck it. In the 26th year of Asa king of Judah, Elah the son of Baasha became king over Israel at Tirzah, and reigned 2 years. And his servant Zimri, commander of half his chariots, conspired against him. Now he was at Tirzah, drinking himself drunk in the house of Arza, who was over the household at Tirzah. Then Zimri went in and struck him and put him to death in the 27th year of Asa king of Judah, and became king in his place. Now it happened when he became king, as soon as he sat on his throne, that he struck down all the household of Baasha. He did not leave a single male, not even any of his kinsmen redeemers or his friends. Thus Zimri destroyed all the household of Baasha, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke against Baasha by the hand of Jehu the prophet, for all the sins of Baasha and the sins of Elah his son, which they sinned and which they made Israel sin, provoking Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger with their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Elah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? In the 27th year of Asa king of Judah, Zimri reigned 7 days at Tirzah. Now the people were camped against Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines. And the people who were camped heard it said, Zimri has conspired and has also struck down the king. Therefore all Israel made Omri, the commander of the army, king over Israel that day in the camp. Then Omri and all Israel with him went up from Gibbethon and besieged Tirzah. Now it happened that when Zimri saw that the city was captured, he went into the citadel of the king's house and burned the king's house over him with fire and died, because of his sins which he sinned, doing what is evil in the sight of Yahweh, walking in the way of Jeroboam, and in his sin which he did, making Israel sin. Now the rest of the acts of Zimri and his conspiracy which he carried out, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Then the people of Israel were divided into 2 parts. Half of the people followed Tidni the son of Gineth to make him king, the other half followed Omri. But the people who followed Omri prevailed over the people who followed Tidni the son of Gineth, and Tidni died and Omri became king. In the 31st year of Asa king of Judah, Omri became king over Israel and reigned 12 years. He reigned 6 years at Tirzah. And he bought the hill Samaria from Shemer for 2 talents of silver. And he built on the hill, and named the city which he built Samaria, after the name of Shemer, the owner of the hill. And Omri did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and acted more wickedly than all who were before him. For he walked in all the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and in his sins which he made Israel sin, provoking Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger with their idols. Now the rest of the acts of Omri which he did, and his might which he showed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Omri slept with his fathers and was buried in Samaria. and Ahab his son became king in his place. Now Ahab the son of Omri became king over Israel in the 38th year of Asa king of Judah, and Ahab the son of Omri reigned over Israel in Samaria 22 years. And Ahab the son of Omri did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh more than all who were before him. Now it happened, as though it had been a trivial thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that he took Jezebel the daughter of Ethbaal king of the Sidonians as a wife, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. So he erected an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he built in Samaria. Ahab also made the Asherah. Thus Ahab did more to provoke Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger than all the kings of Israel who were before him. In his days Heel the Bethelite built Jericho. He laid its foundations with the loss of Abiram his firstborn, and set up its gates with the loss of his youngest son Segub, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke by the hand of Joshua the son of Nun. 1 Kings chapter 17. Now Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the settlers of Gilead, said to Ahab, As Yahweh, the God of Israel, lives, before whom I stand, surely there shall be neither dew nor rain these years, except by my word. Then the word of Yahweh came to him, saying, Go away from here and turn eastward, and hide yourself by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. And it will be that you will drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to sustain you there. So he went and did according to the word of Yahweh, for he went and lived by the brook Cherith, which is east of the Jordan. And the ravens were bringing him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he would drink from the brook. Now it happened after a while that the brook dried up, because there was no rain in the land. Then the word of Yahweh came to him, saying, Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and remain there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to sustain you. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, Please get me a little water in a jar, that I may drink. So she went to get it, and he called to her and said, Please get me a piece of bread in your hand. But she said, As Yahweh your God lives, I have no bread, only a handful of flour in the bowl and a little oil in the jar. And behold, I am gathering a few sticks that I may go in and prepare for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. Then Elijah said to her, Do not fear. Go, do as you have said, but make me a little bread cake from it first and bring it out to me, and afterward you may make one for yourself and for your son. For thus says Yahweh, the God of Israel, The bowl of flour shall not be exhausted, nor shall the jar of oil be empty, until the day that Yahweh sends rain on the face of the earth. So she went and did according to the word of Elijah, and she and he and her household ate for many days. The bowl of flour was not exhausted, nor did the jar of oil become empty, according to the word of Yahweh which he spoke by the hand of Elijah. Now it happened after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, became sick, and his sickness was so severe that there was no breath left in him. So she said to Elijah, What do I have to do with you, O man of God? You have come to me to bring my iniquity to remembrance and to put my son to death. And he said to her, Give me your son. Then he took him from her bosom and carried him up to the upper room where he was living, and laid him on his own bed. Then he called to Yahweh and said, O Yahweh my God, have you also brought calamity to the widow with whom I am sojourning, by causing her son to die? Then he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and called to Yahweh and said, O Yahweh my God, I pray you, let this child's life return to him. And Yahweh heard the voice of Elijah, and the life of the child returned to him, and he became alive. Then Elijah took the child and brought him down from the upper room into the house and gave him to his mother. And Elijah said, See, your son is alive. Then the woman said to Elijah, Now I know this, that you are a man of God, and that the word of Yahweh in your mouth is truth. 1 Kings chapter 18. Now it happened after many days that the word of Yahweh came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go, show yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the face of the earth. So Elijah went to show himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, who was over the household. Now Obadiah feared Yahweh greatly. And it happened that when Jezebel was cutting down the prophets of Yahweh, Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50s in a cave, and sustained them with bread and water. Then Ahab said to Obadiah, Go through the land to all the springs of water and to all the valleys. Perhaps we will find grass and keep the horses and mules alive, and not have to cut down some of the cattle. So they divided the land between them to pass through it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. Now it happened that as Obadiah was on the way, behold, Elijah met him, and he recognized him and fell on his face and said, "Is this you, Elijah my master?" And he said to him, "It is I. Go say to your master, behold, Elijah is here." And he said, "What sin have I committed, that you are giving your servant into the hand of Ahab to put me to death? As Yahweh your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom where my master has not sent to search for you." And if they said, "He is not here," he made the kingdom or nation swear that they could not find you. And now you are saying, "Go say to your master, behold, Elijah is here." And it will be that when I leave you, the Spirit of Yahweh will carry you where I do not know. And I will come and tell Ahab, and he will not find you, and he will kill me, although I your servant have feared Yahweh from my youth. Has it not been told to my master what I did when Jezebel killed the prophets of Yahweh, that I hid 100 prophets of Yahweh by 50s in a cave, and sustained them with bread and water? So now you are saying, "Go say to your master, behold, Elijah is here. He will then kill me." And Elijah said, "As Yahweh of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself to him today." So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. Now it happened when Ahab saw Elijah that Ahab said to him, "Is this you, you troubler of Israel?" And he said, "I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house have, because you have forsaken the commandments of Yahweh, and you have followed the Baals. So now then send and gather to me all Israel at Mount Carmel, together with 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of the Asherah, who eat at Jezebel's table." So Ahab sent a message among all the sons of Israel, and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah came near to all the people and said, "How long will you be limping between two opinions? If Yahweh is God, follow him, but if Baal, follow him." But the people did not answer him a word. Then Elijah said to the people, "I alone am left a prophet of Yahweh, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Now let them give us 2 oxen, and let them choose 1 ox for themselves, and cut it up, and place it on the wood, but place no fire under it. And I will prepare the other ox and put it on the wood, and I will not place fire under it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of Yahweh, and the God who answers by fire, he is God." And all the people answered and said, "That is a good word." So Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose 1 ox for yourselves, and prepare it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your God, but place no fire under it." Then they took the ox which was given them, and they prepared it, and called on the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, "O Baal, answer us." But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they limped about the altar which they had made. Now it happened at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, "Call out with a loud voice, for he is a god. Either he is occupied or relieving himself, or is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and needs to be awakened." So they cried with a loud voice, and gashed themselves according to their custom, with swords and lances, until the blood gushed out on them. Now it happened when noon had passed, that they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice. But there was no voice, no one answered, and no one paid attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come near to me." So all the people came near to him, and he repaired the altar of Yahweh which had been pulled down. Then Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of Yahweh had come, saying, "Israel shall be your name." And with the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahweh, and he made a trench around the altar, large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. Then he arranged the wood and cut the ox in pieces and placed it on the wood. And he said, "Fill 4 pitchers with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood." And he said, "Do it a second time." And they did it a second time. And he said, "Do it a third time." And they did it a third time. And the water flowed around the altar, and he also filled the trench with water. Now it happened at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah the prophet came near and said, "O Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, today let it be known that you are God in Israel, and that I am your slave, and I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Yahweh, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Yahweh, are God, and that you have turned their heart back again." Then the fire of Yahweh fell, and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And all the people saw it and fell on their faces and said, Yahweh, he is God. Yahweh, he is God. Then Elijah said to them, Seize the prophets of Baal, do not let one of them escape. So they seized them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and slaughtered them there. Now Elijah said to Ahab, Go up, eat and drink, for there is the sound of the tumult of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and drink. But Elijah went up to the top of Carmel, and he stretched himself down toward the ground and put his face between his knees. And he said to his young man, Go up now, look toward the sea. So he went up and looked and said, There is nothing. And he said, Go back 7 times. Now it happened at the 7th time that he said, Behold, a cloud as small as a man's hand is coming up from the sea. And he said, Go up, say to Ahab, Prepare your chariot and go down, so that the rain does not stop you. Now it happened that in a little while the sky grew dark with clouds and wind, and there was a heavy rain. And Ahab rode and went to Jezreel. But the hand of Yahweh was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins and outran Ahab unto where you entered Jezreel. 1 Kings chapter 19. Now Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and how he had killed all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, So may the gods do to me, and even more, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by about this time tomorrow. And he was afraid and arose and ran for his life, and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah, and left his young man there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he asked for himself that he might die, and said, It is enough. Now, O Yahweh, take my life, for I am not better than my fathers. Then he lay down and slept under a broom tree. And behold, there was an angel touching him, and he said to him, Arise, eat. Then he looked, and behold, there was at his head a bread cake baked on hot stones, and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. And the angel of Yahweh came again a 2nd time and touched him and said, Arise, eat, because the journey is too great for you. So he arose and ate and drank, and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mountain of God. Then he came there to a cave and lodged there. And behold, the word of Yahweh came to him, and he said to him, What are you doing here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very zealous for Yahweh, the God of hosts. For the sons of Israel have forsaken your covenant, pulled down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I alone am left, and they seek my life to take it away. So he said, Go forth and stand on the mountain before Yahweh. And behold, Yahweh was passing by. And a great and strong wind was tearing up the mountains and breaking in pieces the rocks before Yahweh. But Yahweh was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but Yahweh was not in the earthquake. Then after the earthquake, a fire, but Yahweh was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of a thin, gentle whisper. Now it happened that when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entrance of the cave. And behold, a voice came to him and said, What are you doing here, Elijah? Then he said, I have been very zealous for Yahweh, the God of hosts. For the sons of Israel have forsaken your covenant, pulled down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. And I alone am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And Yahweh said to him, Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you will arrive and anoint Hazael king over Aram. And Jehu the son of Nimshi you shall anoint king over Israel. And Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel Mahalah you shall anoint as prophet in your place. And it will be that the one who escapes from the sword of Hazael, Jehu shall put to death, and the one who escapes from the sword of Jehu, Elisha shall put to death. Yet I will leave 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him. So he went from there and found Elisha the son of Shaphat, while he was plowing with 12 pairs of oxen before him, and he with the 12th. And Elijah passed over to him and threw his mantle on him. So he forsook the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, Please let me kiss my father and my mother, then I will follow you. And he said to him, Go back again, for what have I done to you? So he returned from following him, and took the pair of oxen, and sacrificed them, and boiled their flesh with the implements of the oxen, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he arose and followed Elijah, and ministered to him. 1 Kings chapter 20. Now Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, gathered all his military force, and there were 32 kings with him, and horses and chariots. And he went up and besieged Samaria and fought against it. Then he sent messengers to the city to Ahab, king of Israel, and said to him, Thus says Ben-Hadad, Your silver and your gold are mine, Your most beautiful wives and children are also mine." Then the king of Israel answered and said, "It is according to your word, my lord, O king. I am yours and all that I have." Then the messengers returned and said, "Thus says Ben-Hadad, surely I sent to you saying, 'You shall give me your silver and your gold and your wives and your children.' But about this time tomorrow I will send my servants to you, and they will search your house and the houses of your servants. And whatever is desirable in your eyes, they will put in their hand and carry away." Then the king of Israel called all the elders of the land and said, "Please know and see how this man is looking for trouble. For he sent to me for my wives and my children and my silver and my gold, and I withheld nothing from him." And all the elders and all the people said to him, "Do not listen or consent." So he said to the messengers of Ben-Hadad, "Say to my lord the king, all that you sent for to your servant at the first I will do, but this thing I cannot do." And the messengers departed and brought him word again. Then Ben-Hadad sent to him and said, "May the gods do so to me and more also, if the dust of Samaria will be sufficient for a handful for all the people who follow me." Then the king of Israel answered and said, "Speak to him. Let not him who girds on his armor boast like him who takes it off." Now it happened that when Ben-Hadad heard this message, as he was drinking with the kings in the booths, he said to his servants, "Station yourselves." So they stationed themselves against the city. Now behold, a prophet approached Ahab king of Israel and said, "Thus says Yahweh, have you seen all this great multitude? Behold, I will deliver them into your hand today, and you shall know that I am Yahweh." And Ahab said, "By whom?" So he said, "Thus says Yahweh, by the young men of the rulers of the provinces." Then he said, "Who shall begin the battle?" And he said, "You." Then he mustered the young men of the rulers of the provinces, and there were 232. And after them he mustered all the people, even all the sons of Israel, 7,000. And they went out at noon, while Ben-Hadad was drinking himself drunk in the booths with the 32 kings who helped him. And the young men of the rulers of the provinces went out first, and Ben-Hadad sent out, and they told him, saying, "Men have come out from Samaria." Then he said, "If they have come out for peace, take them alive. Or if they have come out for war, take them alive." So these went out from the city, the young men of the rulers of the provinces, and the military force which followed them. And they each struck his man. And the Arameans fled, and Israel pursued them. And Ben-Hadad king of Aram escaped on a horse with horsemen. And the king of Israel went out and struck down the horses and chariots, and struck the Arameans with a great slaughter. Then the prophet came near to the king of Israel and said to him, "Go, strengthen yourself and know, and see what you have to do. For at the turn of the year the king of Aram will come up against you." Now the servants of the king of Aram said to him, "Their gods are gods of the mountains, therefore they were stronger than we. But rather let us fight against them in the plain, and surely we will be stronger than they. Do this thing, remove the kings, each from his place, and put captains in their place. And you shall number a military force like the military force that you have lost, horse for horse, and chariot for chariot. Then we will fight against them in the plain, and surely we will be stronger than they." And he listened to their voice and did so. Now it happened at the turn of the year that Ben-Hadad mustered the Arameans and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. Now the sons of Israel were mustered and were provided for and went to meet them. And the sons of Israel camped before them like 2 little flocks of goats, but the Arameans filled the land. Then a man of God came near and spoke to the king of Israel and said, "Thus says Yahweh, because the Arameans have said, 'Yahweh is a God of the mountains, but he is not a God of the valleys.' Therefore I will give all this great multitude into your hand, and you shall know that I am Yahweh." So they camped one opposite the other 7 days. Now it happened that on the 7th day the battle was joined, and the sons of Israel struck down of the Arameans 100,000 foot soldiers in 1 day. But the rest fled to Aphek into the city, and the wall fell on 27,000 men who were left. And Ben-Hadad fled and came into the city into an inner chamber. Then his servant said to him, "Behold now, we have heard that the kings of the house of Israel are kings of loving kindness. Please let us put sackcloth on our loins and ropes on our heads, and go out to the king of Israel. Perhaps he will preserve your life." So they girded sackcloth on their loins and put ropes on their heads, and came to the king of Israel and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad says, 'Please let me live.'" And he said, "Is he still alive?" "He is my brother." Now the men interpreted this as an omen, and hastily catching his word said, "Your brother Ben-Hadad." Then he said, "Go, bring him." Then Ben-Hadad came out to him, and he took him up into the chariot. And Ben-Hadad said to him, "The cities which my father took from your father I will return, and you shall make streets for yourself in Damascus, as my father made in Samaria." Ahab said, "And I will let you go with this covenant." So he cut a covenant with him and let him go. Now a certain man of the sons of the prophets said to another by the word of Yahweh, "Please strike me." But the man refused to strike him. Then he said to him, "Because you have not listened to the voice of Yahweh, behold, as soon as you walk away from me, a lion will strike you down." And as soon as he had walked away from him, a lion found him and struck him down. Then he found another man and said, "Please strike me." And the man struck him, wounding him. So the prophet walked away and stood by, for the king by the way, and disguised himself with a bandage over his eyes. Now it happened that as the king was passing by, he cried out to the king and said, "Your servant went out into the midst of the battle, and behold, a man turned aside and brought a man to me and said, 'Guard this man. If for any reason he is missing, then your life shall be for his life, or else you shall pay a talent of silver.' Now it happened that while your servant was busy here and there, he was gone. And the king of Israel said to him, 'So shall your judgment be. You yourself have decided it.' Then he hastily took the bandage away from his eyes, and the king of Israel recognized him, that he was of the prophets. And he said to him, 'Thus says Yahweh, because you have let go out of your hand the man whom I had devoted to destruction, therefore your life shall go for his life, and your people for his people.' So the king of Israel went to his house sullen and enraged, and came to Samaria." 1 Kings chapter 21. Now it happened after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard, which was in Jezreel, beside the palace of Ahab king of Samaria. And Ahab spoke to Naboth, saying, "Give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a vegetable garden, because it is close beside my house, and I will give you a better vineyard than it in its place. If it is good in your sight, I will give you the price of it in money." But Naboth said to Ahab, "Yahweh forbid me that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers." So Ahab came into his house sullen and enraged because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he said, "I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers." And he lay down on his bed and turned away his face and ate no food. But Jezebel his wife came to him and said to him, "How is it that your spirit is so sullen that you are not eating food?" So he said to her, "Because I spoke to Naboth the Jezreelite and said to him, 'Give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it pleases you, I will give you a vineyard in its place.' But he said, 'I will not give you my vineyard.' And Jezebel his wife said to him, 'Do you now exercise kingship over Israel? Arise, eat bread, and let your heart be merry. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite.' So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal, and sent letters to the elders and to the nobles who were living with Naboth in his city. And she wrote in the letters, saying, 'Call for a fast and seat Naboth at the head of the people, and seat 2 vile men before him, and let them testify against him, saying, "You cursed God and the king." Then take him out and stone him so that he will die.' So the men of his city, the elders and the nobles who lived in his city, did as Jezebel had sent word to them, just as it was written in the letters which she had sent them. They called for a fast and seated Naboth at the head of the people. Then the 2 vile men came in and sat before him, and the vile men testified against him, against Naboth, before the people, saying, 'Naboth cursed God and the king.' So they took him outside the city and stoned him with stones, and he died. Then they sent word to Jezebel, saying, 'Naboth has been stoned and is dead.' Now it happened that when Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned and was dead, Jezebel said to Ahab, 'Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give you for money. For Naboth is not alive, but dead.' Now it happened that when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, Ahab arose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, to take possession of it. Then the word of Yahweh came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, 'Arise, go down to meet Ahab king of Israel, who is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone down to take possession of it. And you shall speak to him, saying, Thus says Yahweh, have you murdered and also taken possession? And you shall speak to him, saying, Thus says Yahweh, in the place where the dogs licked up the blood of Naboth, the dogs will lick up your blood, even yours.' And Ahab said to Elijah, Have you found me, O my enemy? And he answered, I have found you because you have sold yourself to do what is evil in the sight of Yahweh. Behold, I will bring evil upon you, and will utterly sweep you away, and will cut off from Ahab every male, both bond and free in Israel. And I will make your house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, because of the provocation with which you have provoked me to anger, and because you have made Israel sin. Of Jezebel also has Yahweh spoken, saying, the dogs will eat Jezebel in the district of Jezreel, the one belonging to Ahab, who dies in the city, the dogs will eat, and the one who dies in the field the birds of the sky will eat. Surely there was no one who sold himself to do what is evil in the sight of Yahweh like Ahab, whom Jezebel his wife incited. And he acted very abominably in following idols, according to all that the Amorites had done, whom Yahweh dispossessed before the sons of Israel. Now it happened when Ahab heard these words, that he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and fasted, and he lay in sackcloth and went about despondently. Then the word of Yahweh came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, do you see how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring the evil in his days, but I will bring the evil upon his house in his son's days. 1 Kings chapter 22. So they lived for 3 years without war between Aram and Israel. Now it happened in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat the king of Judah came down to the king of Israel. Then the king of Israel said to his servants, do you know that Ramoth-Gilead belongs to us? But we are sitting still so as not to take it out of the hand of the king of Aram. So he said to Jehoshaphat, will you go with me to battle at Ramoth-Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. Moreover, Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, please inquire first for the word of Yahweh. Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, about 400 men, and said to them, shall I go against Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall I refrain? And they said, go up, for the Lord will give it into the hand of the king. But Jehoshaphat said, is there not yet a prophet of Yahweh here that we may inquire of him? And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, there is yet one man by whom we may inquire of Yahweh, but I hate him, because he does not prophesy good concerning me, but evil. He is Micaiah son of Imlah. But Jehoshaphat said, let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called an officer and said, hasten to bring Micaiah son of Imlah. Now the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat king of Judah were sitting each on his throne, clothed in their royal garments, at the thrashing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets were prophesying before them. And Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, made horns of iron for himself and said, thus says Yahweh, with these you will gore the Arameans until they are consumed. All the prophets were also prophesying thus, saying, go up to Ramoth-Gilead and succeed, and Yahweh will give it into the hand of the king. Now the messenger who went to summon Micaiah spoke to him, saying, behold now, the words of the prophets, as if from one mouth, are good towards the king. Please let your word be like the word of one of them, and speak that which is good. But Micaiah said, as Yahweh lives, what Yahweh says to me, that I shall speak. Then he came to the king, and the king said to him, Micaiah, shall we go to Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or shall we refrain? And he said to him, go up and succeed, and Yahweh will give it into the hand of the king. Then the king said to him, how many times must I make you swear that you will speak to me nothing but the truth in the name of Yahweh? So he said, I saw all Israel, scattered on the mountains, like sheep which have no shepherd. And Yahweh said, these have no master. Let each of them return to his house in peace. Then the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, did I not say to you that he would not prophesy good concerning me, but evil? Then Micaiah said, therefore hear the word of Yahweh. I saw Yahweh sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right and on his left. And Yahweh said, who will entice Ahab so that he will go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead? And one said this while another said that. Then a spirit came forward and stood before Yahweh and said, I will entice him. And Yahweh said to him, how? And he said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. Then he said, you shall entice him and also prevail. Go out and do so. So now, behold, Yahweh has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these your prophets. But Yahweh has spoken calamity against you. Then Zedekiah, the son of Chenaanah, came near and struck Micaiah on the cheek and said, how did the spirit of Yahweh pass from me to speak to you? And Micaiah said, Behold, you will see on that day when you enter an inner room to hide. Then the king of Israel said, Take Micaiah and return him to Ammon the commander of the city, and to Joash the king's son. And say, Thus says the king, Put this man in prison and feed him sparingly with bread and water until I come back safely. And Micaiah said, If you indeed return safely, Yahweh has not spoken by me. And he said, Listen, all you people. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat king of Judah went up against Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into the battle, but you put on your garments. So the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. Now the king of Aram had commanded the 32 commanders of his chariots, saying, Do not fight with small or great, but with the king of Israel alone. Now it happened that when the commanders of the chariot saw Jehoshaphat, they said, Surely it is the king of Israel. And they turned aside to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out. So it happened that when the commanders of the chariot saw that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back from pursuing him. Now a certain man drew his bow at random and struck the king of Israel in a joint of the armor. So he said to the driver of his chariot, Turn around and take me out of the fight, for I am severely wounded. Now the battle raged that day, and the king was propped up in his chariot in front of the Arameans, and died at evening. And the blood from the wound ran into the bottom of the chariot. Then a shout of lament passed throughout the camp close to sunset, saying, Every man to his city and every man to his land. So the king died and was brought to Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria. And they washed the chariot by the pool of Samaria, and the dogs licked up his blood. Now the harlots bathed themselves there, according to the word of Yahweh which he spoke. Now the rest of the acts of Ahab, and all that he did, and the ivory house which he built, and all the cities which he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah his son became king in his place. Now Jehoshaphat the son of Asab became king over Judah in the 4th year of Ahab king of Israel. Jehoshaphat was 35 years old when he became king, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Azubah the daughter of Shilhi. And he walked in all the way of Asa his father. He did not turn away from it, doing what is right in the sight of Yahweh. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still sacrificed and burnt incense on the high places. Jehoshaphat also made peace with the king of Israel. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, and his might which he showed, and how he warred, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And the remnant of the male cult prostitutes who remained in the days of his father Asa, he purged from the land. Now there was no king in Edom. A deputy was king. Jehoshaphat made ships of Tarshish to go to Ophir for gold, but they did not go, for the ships were broken at Ezion-Geber. Then Ahaziah the son of Ahab said to Jehoshaphat, Let my servants go with your servants in the ships. But Jehoshaphat was not willing. And Jehoshaphat slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of his father David. And Jehoram his son became king in his place. Ahaziah the son of Ahab became king over Israel in Samaria in the 17th year of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and he reigned 2 years over Israel. And he did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, and walked in the way of his father, and in the way of his mother, and in the way of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin. So he served Baal and worshipped him, and provoked Yahweh, the God of Israel, to anger, according to all that his father had done.